We have a real man now. They laughed at dinner. I nodded. When they got home to an empty house and 85,000 gone from the college fund I'd built for 15 years, that's when they called me 47 times to that first night. They never stopped calling. I never answered. My name is Wade Cooper. I'm 46 years old, HVAC supervisor at Southwest Mechanical Services in Phoenix, Arizona. 22 years in the trade, 15 of them married to Brooke, raising her son, Trent, since he was 7. His real father, Cole Ramirez, disappeared into gambling debts before the kid could spell his own name. I became dad. In Phoenix, when it's 118 degrees outside and your 20-ton rooftop unit goes down, you don't call a real estate developer. You call guys like me, guys who crawl into 140-degree attics, troubleshoot variable refrigerant flow systems, and keep this desert city from turning into a furnace. I've installed chillers in 40-story office buildings, retrofitted entire shopping centers with energy-efficient systems, trained dozens of technicians on proper refrigerant handling. It's skilled work, essential work. Work that keeps people alive when the mercury hits triple digits 6 months of the year. I knew about Shane Caldwell for 6 months. Real estate development manager at Pinnacle Development Group, drove a leased Tesla Model S that probably cost more than most of my crew made in a year, wore $1,000 suits to construction sites where he'd never turned a wrench or pulled a single foot of ductwork. I'd seen the texts on Brooke's phone, the hotel charges on our credit card, the way she started coming home smelling like cologne that wasn't the Stetson I'd worn for 20 years. But I didn't confront her. Marines don't charge into battle without reconnaissance. I just started gathering intelligence. That Tuesday evening in March, with the temperature finally dropping below 90 after another scorching day, I fired up the custom outdoor kitchen I'd built in. Our backyard over 3 consecutive weekends, prime ribeyes from AJ's Fine Foods, mesquite grilled corn, loaded baked potatoes, the works. The setup was my pride, commercial-grade stainless steel grill, granite countertops salvaged from a high-end remodel job, built-in mini fridge, LED lighting strips I'd wired myself. Every connection perfect, every measurement precise. The kind of craftsmanship you develop after 2 decades of making things work right the first time. Brooke walked out through the sliding glass doors with her yoga mat tucked under her arm, barely glancing at the feast I'd prepared. Her Lululemon outfit probably cost more than my work boots, and she wore it like armor against our suburban Ahwatukee neighborhood. Trent came down from his room scrolling through his phone, 20 years old, and in his sophomore year at Arizona State. Business major, naturally. I'd been saving for his future since he was 12, back when he still called me dad without rolling his eyes. Had 85 out of 347 for $33 in that education fund. Every overtime hour during the brutal summer months, every emergency service call on Christmas morning, every dollar earned in mechanical rooms where the ambient temperature could melt steel. We sat at the patio table I'd crafted from reclaimed mesquite, the desert sunset painting the South Mountain Range in shades of copper and gold. This was Arizona at its most beautiful when the heat finally breaks and you remember why people moved here in the first place. I served the plates with the same precision I used to install a split-system condenser, attention to detail, respect for the process. Then Brooke started talking. Shane closed another major development deal today, she said, cutting into her ribeye with surgical precision. 7 figures, those new luxury condos in Old Town Scottsdale, the ones with the rooftop pools. I nodded, chewing slowly, thinking about the commercial HVAC systems I'd probably end up servicing in those same condos. He's taking the team to that new steakhouse Friday, she continued, the one with the private wine cellar and the sommelier. Trent looked up from his phone, grinning like he was in on some private joke. That place is incredible. Shane took us there last month. Remember, Mom? Us. The word hit like a refrigerant leak, invisible at first, then overwhelming. They weren't even pretending anymore. Shane says I should apply for an internship at his company, Trent added, his voice taking on that eager tone he used to reserve for talking about my work. He put in a good word with the senior partners. I set down my fork carefully, the way you handle sensitive electrical components. You already have the HVAC apprenticeship lined up at Mesa Community College, full scholarship through the union. He shrugged, that dismissive gesture that had become his default response to everything I said. That's just working with tools, Wade. Manual labor. Shane's company does real. Business. $1 million projects that matter. Brooke leaned back in her chair with her wine glass, a Pinot Grigio that cost more per bottle than my crewmate per hour. Shane really knows how to build things, she said, her voice taking on that dreamy quality that used to be reserved for talking about our future together. Takes vision, leadership, doesn't just fix air conditioners when people call. Some of us keep this city habitable, I said evenly, my voice carrying the controlled calm I used when explaining complex system failures to panicked building managers. She laughed then, sharp and cutting, like the sound of metal shearing under stress. Wade, you crawl around in attics telling guys which pipes to connect. Shane builds entire communities, creates jobs, changes skylines. Trent snickered, the sound echoing off the stone retaining walls I'd built to terrace our sloping lot. Brooke leaned forward then, her eyes bright with wine and cruelty, backlit by the string, lights I'd installed last summer. We have a real man now, she said, her voice carrying across the patio like a blade. Trent burst out laughing, full-throated head-back laughter that seemed to bounce off every surface I'd created with these hands. The pergola I'd constructed from pressure-treated lumber. The fire pit where we used to make s'mores when he was still young enough to think I hung the moon. The outdoor speakers where I'd played his Little League victory songs. I didn't flip the table, didn't raise my voice, didn't do what 22 years of Marine training and Union solidarity might have suggested. I just nodded. Good to know. I stood up with mechanical precision, collected their plates like I was gathering tools at the end of a job, and walked them to the kitchen, scraped the prime ribeye, $42 a pound, into the garbage disposal. Behind me, they were still giggling about their inside joke, their shared secret that wasn't secret at all. I dried, my hands on the dish towel, looked out at the backyard oasis I'd built one weekend project at a time, the drip irrigation system I'd designed to keep our desert landscaping alive through the brutal summers, the covered ramada where we'd celebrated Trent's graduation from high school, the workshop where I'd taught him to use a circular saw, back when he still wanted to learn things from me. That was the moment I stopped pretending I didn't know everything. I walked upstairs and opened the closet in the spare room, pulled out the manila folder I'd been building for 6 months, bank statements, legal documents, account transfer forms. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, I let them laugh. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. Wednesday morning. Old habit from 2 decades of service calls and emergency repairs. When a hospital's chiller system goes down at midnight, you don't get to sleep until it's fixed. Brooke was still asleep, turned away from me like she'd been doing for months. Her expensive silk nightgown, a barrier between us. I got dressed in the dark, Carhartt work pants, company polo shirt, steel-toed boots that had walked through more mechanical rooms than I could count. The house was quiet in that peculiar Phoenix morning way when the temperature finally drops below 80 and you can almost pretend you live somewhere with real seasons. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table where they had laughed at me 12 hours ago. Pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. I'd been keeping a detailed list, every step planned out like a commercial installation job. Measure twice, cut once, calculate load requirements before selecting equipment. Always have a backup plan. First call went to Zane Brooks, my old Marine buddy who ran ZB Moving and Storage out of Tempe. He answered on the second ring despite the early hour. "Wade, it's 4:45 in the morning," Zane said, his voice rough with sleep but alert. Marines learn to wake up ready. "Need a truck Saturday morning," I said. "Early, 6 a.m. He was quiet for a second, and I could hear him processing. "This about Brooke?" "Yeah. I'll be there," he said. No questions asked, no judgment. That's what 24 years of friendship gets you. 2 tours in Iraq together, countless beers at VFW barbecues, standing as best man at each other's weddings. Second call went to my attorney, Paige Wells. Left her a voicemail asking her to prepare the final documents. She'd been handling everything quietly for 3 months, ever since I'd walked into her downtown office with a stack of papers and a story that made her shake her head in disgust. Post-nuptial agreement from 2010 that Brooke had signed without reading, trusting me to handle the legal details like I handled everything else in our marriage. Clause 12 gave me full authority over any premarital assets, the house, my retirement accounts, the education fund I'd started before we even met. At work that day, I moved through my shift on autopilot. Southwest Mechanical Services occupied a sprawling complex near Sky Harbor Airport, our fleet of white trucks lined up like soldiers in the morning heat. I had 12 technicians under me, good men who trusted me to keep the work coming and the paychecks steady. We were installing a new variable refrigerant flow system in a 40-story office building downtown, the kind of precision work that separates the professionals from the parts changers. Reed Murphy, one of my best technicians, pulled me aside during lunch break. We were sitting in the air-conditioned brake trailer, eating sandwiches and drinking ice water by the gallon. "Boss, you good?" Reed asked, his weathered face creased with concern. "You've been quiet all week." I looked at him. 52 years old, hands scarred by 25 years of sheet metal and refrigerant lines, raising 2 sons on union wages and overtime hours. "How old are your boys now?" I asked. 19 and 17, he said, pulling out his phone to show me his lock screen. 2 young men in Mesa Community College HVAC program uniforms, tools in their hands, pride on their faces. "They appreciate what you do for them?" Reed nodded, his smile genuine. "Every day. Travis just got his EPA certification, wants to specialize in industrial chillers like his old man. Marcus is thinking about renewable energy systems, solar-powered cooling, that kind of future stuff." He paused. "Why you asking?" I shook my head. Just wondering what gratitude looks like. That afternoon, I logged into the bank portal from my office computer, the same secure connection I used to process payroll for my crew. The education account sat there like a testament to 15 years of sacrifice. 85 SAU 640.33. Every dollar earned in 100-degree attics and freezing mechanical rooms. Every overtime hour during the brutal Phoenix summers when the emergency calls never stopped coming. Every holiday I'd worked while other fathers coached Little League or taught their sons to fish. I'd opened that account when Trent was 7 years old, walking into Desert Financial Credit Union with a $20 bill and a dream. Told the account manager I was building something for a boy who didn't share my blood but had claimed my heart. Back then, $20 seemed like a fortune to a kid who'd never had a father figure. Now, it was enough to pay for a complete education, a future, a chance at something better. I pulled up the transfer form, typed in the recipient information I'd gotten 2 weeks ago from a man I'd never met face to face. Cole Ramirez, account and routing numbers I'd memorized like equipment model specifications. Cole had gotten clean 4 years ago, traded his gambling addiction for a steady job as a veterans counselor in Albuquerque. Had another daughter, Maya, 19 years old, pre-nursing student at University of New Mexico. Dean's List every semester, working 20 hours a week at the campus. Medical center, everything Trent could have been if he'd understood what sacrifice looked like. I found Cole through Facebook 5 months ago, sent him a careful message. We'd talked on the phone twice. Conversations that felt like debriefing sessions after difficult missions. He didn't ask for money, didn't ask for anything, except to know if Trent was okay. "He's lost," I'd told him, "and I can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved." Cole had understood. Military fathers always do. He'd told me about Maya, about how she'd watched him fight for sobriety, how she'd worked 2 jobs through high school to help pay rent, how she'd earned every scholarship through grades and volunteer work at the VA hospital. "She's everything I'm not," Cole had said, his voice thick with the kind of regret that changes a man. "Everything I should have been for Trent." That's when I knew where the money needed to go, not as charity, but as recognition, investment in someone who understood that. Opportunities are earned, not inherited. I didn't hit the transfer button yet, not until Saturday, but everything was ready, like staging equipment for a major installation. Every detail planned, every contingency covered. At 6:15 p.m., I got home to find Brooke's white Lexus missing from the driveway, probably at Core Power Yoga, or meeting Shane at some overpriced Scottsdale restaurant where they served tiny portions on huge plates. Didn't matter anymore. I went to the garage and started pulling down boxes from the steel shelving I'd installed when we moved in. My grandfather's carpentry tools, still sharp after 60 years. Framed certificates from technical schools and manufacturer training programs. The Bronze Star from my time in Iraq, earned by keeping air conditioning running in 130-degree heat while mortars fell on our forward operating base. Everything that was mine, everything I'd brought into this marriage or earned with my own hands. Trent came home around 7, shopping bags from the Scottsdale Fashion Square in both hands, premium brands that cost more than my work boots. "You're organizing?" he asked, barely glancing at the neat piles of my possessions. "Spring cleaning," I said, using the same matter-of-fact tone I used when explaining system diagnostics. He shrugged and went upstairs, probably to FaceTime with friends about his internship prospects, or whatever Shane had promised him. Saturday morning came clear and hot, the kind of Arizona spring day that reminded you summer was lurking just around the corner. I woke up at 5 a.m., dressed in the dark, and walked downstairs with a single duffel bag. Everything essential fit in one bag. Funny how 15 years of marriage comes down to so little when you strip away the shared pretenses. Zane's unmarked box truck pulled up at 5:58 a.m., punctual as a service call. He stepped out with his son, Marcus, 25 years old, and built like the Marine he'd been before, taking over the UO family business. Two professionals who understood discretion. "Wade," Zane said, shaking my hand with the firm grip of someone who'd carried wounded soldiers. "We doing this?" "Every last thing that's mine," I said. We worked with military efficiency. My toolbox from the garage, containing instruments worth more than most people's cars. Refrigerant manifolds, digital multimeters, torque wrenches calibrated to manufacturer specifications. The workbench I'd built from aircraft-grade aluminum and hardwood, where I'd repaired countless small appliances for neighbors who couldn't afford service calls. My grandfather's antique drill press, cast iron and steel, from an era when tools were built to last generations. Framed certificates from the wall documenting 22 years of continuous education. EPA certifications, manufacturer training, safety courses, my fishing gear, barely used because work always came first. The gun safe, containing weapons I'd hoped never to need again. After Iraq, but kept maintained out of habit. Books on refrigeration theory and psychrometric calculations, technical manuals that most people couldn't pronounce, let alone understand. Everything I'd brought into this marriage or earned through skill and sweat. Zane pointed at the wedding album sitting on the mantelpiece, our smiling faces from 15 years ago, looking naive and hopeful. "That stays," I said. "Let them remember what promises look like when they're broken." By 7:30 a.m., we were done. The living room looked like someone had performed surgical removal of half the furniture. My leather recliner gone, the one where I'd fallen asleep watching late-night basketball games after 14-hour service calls. The entertainment center I'd built from solid oak gone. The coffee table I'd refinished 3 times gone. But Brooke's decorative pillows remained perfectly arranged on her white sectional. Her yoga equipment still occupied the corner where my workbench had been. Her wine collection still filled the custom rack I'd installed in the dining room, each bottle worth more than my crew made in a day. I walked upstairs one last time, my boots echoing in the hallway I'd refloored the previous summer. Went to the bedroom, opened my closet, and took 3 things. My father's Rolex Submariner, earned through 30 years of precision machining before arthritis forced his retirement. The Bronze Star from my deployment, reminder of a time when my skills kept people alive in impossible conditions. The small wooden toolbox Trent had made me in 8th grade shop class, world's best dad, burned into the lid with careful lettering that had taken him hours to perfect. I held that box for a long minute, remembering the pride on his face when he'd presented it to me, how he'd explained every joint and measurement like he was presenting technical drawings to a client. Then I put it in my jacket pocket, next to my heart, where it belonged. Back downstairs, I did one final systems check, kitchen, living room, patio. Then I went to my home office and sat at the computer, logged into the bank with the same methodical precision I use for load calculations, pulled up the education fund, 85,147.33, the number branded in my memory like equipment specifications. I typed in the recipient information, Cole Ramirez, routing number I'd verified 3 times, beneficiary Maya Ramirez Education Trust. My finger hovered over the confirm button. I thought about all those nights working emergency calls while other fathers tucked their children into bed. All those birthdays I'd missed for overtime, pay that went straight into this account. All those times Trent had called me dad with genuine affection, before Shane Caldwell taught him to measure men by their job titles instead of their character. Then I thought about Tuesday night. We have a real man now. I clicked confirm, transaction processed, funds transferred, 85,047.33 to Maya Ramirez, a young woman I'd never met, but who understood that respect is earned through work, not inherited through accident of birth. A girl who wrote thank you notes to professors and worked night shifts at the medical center to pay for textbooks she'd actually read. I logged out, opened the utilities portal, and scheduled shutoffs with the same attention to detail I brought to commissioning new equipment: gas, electric, water. Effective 5 p.m. today. Cancel Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime, every subscription tied to my credit card. Then I opened my email and drafted one message, subject line, as direct as a service report. To Brooke Cooper, subject, gone. Body, when you get home, don't panic, I'm fine, just not yours anymore. Attached to the email, a PDF of our post-nuptial agreement with highlighted sections showing exactly what I was legally entitled to take, and a copy of the education fund transfer receipt with Maya Ramirez's name clearly visible. I scheduled the email to send at 6 p.m., giving them time to come home and discover the empty spaces before receiving the explanation. By 8:15 a.m., I was sitting in Zane's truck, watching my house disappear in the side mirror like a job site we'd finished and abandoned. "Where to?" Zane asked. "Your cabin in Flagstaff," I said. "The one by Mormon Lake." Zane nodded. "It's yours as long as you need it. Got good cell service up there, if you decide you want to take calls." We drove north in silence, Phoenix's sprawl giving way to high desert, then pine forests. I didn't look back. At 6 p.m., Brooke would get that email. At 6:30 p.m., they'd walk into an empty house and discover what consequences looked like. At 6:31 p.m., they'd start calling, but I'd already thrown my phone in a gas station trash can outside Camp Verde. I wasn't hiding. I was just done being found by people who'd never valued finding me in the first place. Brooke pushed the front door open at 6:42 p.m., arms loaded with shopping bags from Anthropology and that boutique in Old Town, where everything cost more than my daily rate. Trent followed behind her, scrolling through his phone, probably reading messages from Shane about networking opportunities and seven-figure development deals. "God, my feet are killing me," Brooke said, stepping inside wearing heels that cost more than safety boots. Then she stopped. The living room was wrong, empty spaces where furniture used to be, like equipment had been removed from a mechanical room. No entertainment center, no coffee table. Her heels clicked against bare hardwood, where my recliner had sat for 8 years, the leather worn smooth by countless evenings when I'd fallen asleep reading technical manuals. "What the hell?" Brooke dropped her bags, designer purchases scattering across tiles I'd laid myself 3 summers ago. Trent looked up from his phone, blinked like he was trying to process a system failure he couldn't diagnose. "Did we get robbed?" "Robbers don't take recliners and leave 70-inch televisions," Brooke said, her voice sharp with the first edge of panic. She walked through the house, heels clicking like a countdown timer, Trent trailing behind her. The dining room chairs missing, the ones I'd restored from estate sales during our early years. My home office completely empty, just a desk with disconnected cables where my computer used to be. The garage devastated, tool pegboard bare, workbench gone, empty hooks where fishing rods had hung like unused possibilities. Upstairs, Brooke threw open our bedroom closet, her side untouched, a rainbow of expensive fabrics and designer labels, his side empty hangers swaying like wind chimes in a ghost town. "Mom," Trent said from the hallway, his voice smaller than she'd heard since he was 12 and afraid of monsoon thunder. "His stuff is gone, all of it." Brooke pulled out her iPhone with hands that shook like she was handling live electrical wires, tried calling Wade, straight to voicemail, called again. Same robotic message. "That son of a..." She stopped herself, looked at Trent's pale face. "Check your email, check everything." Trent opened his MacBook on his bed, fingers moving across keys with the desperate urgency of someone trying to restart failed equipment. "Mom, I've got an email from Wade, sent at 6 o'clock. Brooke rushed over, read over his shoulder with growing dread. "When you get home, don't panic. I'm fine. Just not yours anymore." 2 PDF attachments waited like unexploded ordnance. The first document was legal paperwork, dense paragraphs of attorney language with sections highlighted in fluorescent yellow. Post-nuptial agreement from 2010, her signature flowing across the bottom like evidence of her own naivety. "What is this?" Trent asked, his business major education suddenly useless in the face of real-world consequences. Brooke's face drained of color as she read the highlighted clauses. It means everything in his name stays in his name, the house deed, retirement accounts, everything. Trent opened the second PDF with trembling fingers. Bank statement, education fund, his college fund, his future, his safety net. Balance, 0 zeros. Transaction history showed one transfer, processed that morning. 85,247.33. Recipient, Maya Ramirez Education Trust. He gave my money to someone named Maya Ramirez, Trent whispered, staring at the screen like it might change if he willed it hard enough. Brooke grabbed the laptop, read the name again. Ramirez. That's Cole's last name. Who's Cole? Trent's voice cracked like it had during puberty when Wade taught him to change his first tire and check refrigerant levels, skills that suddenly seemed more valuable than networking events. Your biological father, the one who disappeared when you were 7. The truth hit Trent like a system overload. The deadbeat gambler, Wade gave my college fund to his kid. For the next hour, they called Wade's number obsessively. 47 attempts the first night, each call dissolving into digital silence. They called his work Monday morning, only to learn he'd resigned Friday afternoon, with 2 weeks' notice already served, everything transferred to his replacement with characteristic thoroughness. They called his brother Brady in Tucson, who listened to their explanation before saying, "Good for him," and hanging up. 3 weeks later, Brooke sat at her kitchen table with a stack of overdue bills spread like tarot cards predicting financial ruin. She'd sold her jewelry, her designer purses, even her grandmother's china. The mortgage was 2 months behind. Trent had taken a job at Home Depot, his business degree as useful as theoretical knowledge without practical application. That afternoon, an envelope arrived. No return address, just her name in Wade's careful handwriting. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Medical records from University of New Mexico Hospital. Patient, Maya Ramirez. Academic. Achievement summary. Summa cum laude, pre-nursing program. Employment, night shift medical technician, Veterans Administration Hospital. Volunteer hours, 400 plus at pediatric oncology ward. Her phone rang, Wade's voice calling from a number she didn't recognize. "You're wondering why I sent that," he said without preamble. "I wanted you to see what your money became, what it looks like when someone understands that opportunities are earned, not inherited." His voice carried the calm authority of someone who'd found peace in his decisions. Maya Ramirez works 25 hours a week while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. She sends thank you notes to professors and writes letters to families of veterans she helps at the hospital. She's everything Trent could have been if anyone had taught him that respect comes through work, not through accident of birth. "Wade, please come home," Brooke said, her voice breaking like a compressor under too much pressure. "We need you." "No," he said, quietly. "You need my paycheck. You need my labor. You need someone to fix what breaks and pay what costs. But you never needed me." He paused, and she could hear desert wind in the background, the sound of wide-open spaces and second chances. Maya graduates in May. She's already been accepted to nursing school with full scholarship. She understands something that some people never learn. Real strength isn't about taking credit for other people's work. It's about building something worth keeping, then having the courage to walk away when it's not appreciated. The line went dead. 6 months later, Maya Ramirez graduated summa cum laude and sent Wade a handwritten thank you note that he kept in his wallet next to his father's photo. Trent dropped out of college and learned that some lessons can only be taught by their absence. And Brooke finally understood that she'd had a real man all along. She just hadn't recognized him until he proved it by leaving. Sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do isn't staying to fight for respect he'll never receive, but walking away with dignity intact, knowing his worth isn't determined by people who never valued it in the first place.